You are welcome back to our channel Biz Data Consult BDC. In this session, we'll be looking at Excel functions in a bit more detail. To perform calculations in Excel, you need to know how to use Excel functions. Formulas are what you use to make calculations in daily lives. Pre-written formulas with name in Excel are called functions. For instance, this is a formula. If I wanted to sum two figures together, like these two figures, 233 and 1224, I could simply come here and say equals to this 233 plus this 1244, and that gives me 1457. That's a simple formula. You will see that in applying a formula, you simply use operators. The operator we use there is the plus sign operator. You have, of course, from your elementary mathematics, you know plus, minus, multiplication, and division. But when you want to perform this same function, this same addition, supposing you have a cell of up to 1,000 rows that you want to add together, it will be foolhardy, time wasting, inefficient, and error prone for you to use something like this. Okay, so that is when pre-written formula with name called functions will come in handy, and that is the beauty and the power of Excel. So instead of summing this individually, what I will do is to introduce the sum function. For instance, I could introduce a function called the sum function. So I say equals to sum. You see, it brings this dialog box and I select what I want and I say, what do you want to sum? Numbers that I want to sum. So I take those numbers, I can take them as range. And if they are more than 1,000, I can just select the same way and pound, and I read the enter button. You can see I have sum. So that sum up these two values. If it is 1,000 values of individual values, that is how it's going to efficiently sum it up. Now let's look at the anatomy of a function. A function consists of different aspects and inputs that you need to understand so that you can be able to use functions efficiently. The first thing you need to understand is that for every function or formula you want to enter in Excel, you will start with the equal sign. So the equal sign is used to activate formula or functions in Excel. So after this equal sign, then you can type the name of the function. For instance, let's begin with that simple function, the sum function. So if you type S, it's either you know the name of the function and you fully type it, or when you just type one or two alphabet that begins with the function, Excel will give you this list down where you can select what you actually want. So sum You can see here you have substitute, you have subtotal, sum if, sum ifs, sum product, and that. But for the purpose of this class, as introduction, I'm going to stick with sum. So if I have sum, now that is the name of the function. But before you can activate that name, you will type in the open parenthesis. So the open bracket, it is the open bracket that will activate that function. If you just type sum like this and enter, it won't give you anything. You can see, but you know that you want to do a calculation, it doesn't understand it. But immediately you put in front of that function name, you put the open bracket or the parenthesis, and then the argument or the function will come out. So when you look at this function, it's called sum function. It has this open parenthesis which certificate it, and then it has number one, number two, comma, and three dot, meaning continuous like that. Let me explain the structure of this for you. Number one, number two, and so on is showing you the inputs that the function needs. So this function needs number. The first number is called number one. The second number, number two, as many number as you can get. Okay, so say it goes on and on like that. Now, anytime you see this square brackets, okay, in a function, it means that that function, that part of that square bracket is optional. But the first one here, which is number one, which is written in bold here, is not optional. So it's telling you that, for instance, some function can take a minimum of one input value. So this input that the formula takes is what we call arguments. So arguments are the inputs that are given to a formula or a function to perform calculations in Excel. Okay, you will notice that the arguments are separated by comma. So this is comma after number one, this first argument, you see comma. Then number two, which is optional because it has a square bracket wrap around it. Then you have comma again, which is that is option two, and you go on and go on like that. So arguments are separated by commas in Excel. So and then the last, after you have finished entering all the arguments you need to enter, then you now close the parentheses. For instance, if I want to sum this, I could say I want to sum this. Okay, let's say I want to sum this. I select this range and I want to sum it. Okay, so I put comma, you can see comma. So it activates number two. This K18 to K13 is a range of numbers which I've selected there. I could also type individual numbers or individual cell address, okay, to do what I want to do. And then it asks me for the second number, which is optional. In this case, I don't need the second number. What I need to do is to close the parenthesis and press enter, and it sums down for me. Can you see that? So that's the sum of that, which already I have here. Okay, so how to enter or access functions. Okay, so we have demonstrated to you that the first thing to do could be to write equals to and then the name of the function. Let's say average, for instance. Here you can see it's giving me option for average. Okay, all right. So another way to, when you say average, you want to select, for instance, you want to select this pop-up. You just, since it's the first one, you just tap the tab key. Okay, it will give the parentheses immediately and activate the function. Okay, for instance, if I wanted to use data average, which is this, I click on it and press the tab key, and then it will activate the function. You see, that is the first simple way to activate function if you know the name of the function Another one is to go through the function library. So another one is to go through the function library. For instance, if you see here, you see formulas. On this menu, you see formula. In these formulas, that are where functions are grouped. You see function library. So we have the most commonly used function, which is the auto function, auto sum function. Okay, and then we have functions that are recently used. If I use some functions recently, or functions that have been used, these are functions I must have used recently. So it lists them here. Then financial functions are arranged into different categories: financial function, logic function, text functions like you can have find, exact, unique, as much as you link, clean, trim. These are functions you are going to learn more in the future. Minimum. Okay, we are talking of text functions now. You can say split cell, I mean text split, concat, concatenate, if error, and all that. Those are, say, translate. Can you see? Those are commonly used text functions. You have functions for date. You have functions for lookup function like XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, choose row, choose column, expand, CHLOOKUP, HStack, and all of that. Mathematical functions, other function, maybe statistic engineering. So you can see Excel has a library of functions that is available for every category of users to use. So you can come to a function. For instance, if you wanted to activate that sum function, let's say we want summing function. Summing function will be, if we are, it will be a logical function. If we come here, we have if function. I said insert functions. You come here, it says insert function. So you can give it a description if you don't know what you want, or if you know what you want. For instance, you just type it here. It's looking for most recently. Or select under categories. So I was going to select under category. Let's say logic function. Okay. So I come here, I can look for what I want. The if function, for instance, if I wanted the if function, okay, and I have it, and I close. That's another way to access function in Excel. This one will give you this function dialog box. This function dialog box will give you inputs into each of the function. So it means that if you are looking at this dialog box, look at this: logic text, value if true, which is optional, value if false, value is false. So this option will give you a breakdown in a dialog box of how to use the functions. Okay, so you can also activate this dialog box by simply coming to this place, which is called the function insert function option. So this can also give you an option. If you type it, if you click on it like that, you see that you have the same thing, and then you can type what you want. Let's say if function. If I type if here, it will give me, let's say I type sum if function here, and I say go. Can you see? It brings out the sum if. I say okay, and here it gives me the argument. What do I want to sum? I will give you that later. So this another can use this function dialog to always write your functions. Especially the beauty about this is that when you are inputting each argument and you don't know what it is, it will tell you what that should be. It's a range. Is the range of cells that you want to evaluate. For instance, I want to evaluate, hold on please. For instance, I want to evaluate this range of cells. Okay, So I could just come here, okay, and select this, right? You can see. So that is S4 to S224. So it gives me, can you see, it lists all the data in that range, okay? So that is what it will take into its memory as range of values that you want to calculate. The next thing, it will ask for criteria. So when you click that criteria, you know, is separated by a comma. So it said criteria. So what is the criteria? Then I'll put in the criteria. For instance, if you want to put in the criteria, you click on this arrow up, arrow down, okay? You can criteria. I want some that criteria. I say this is my criteria, and then sum range. The actual sets to sum if omitted. The cell is in a range of use case. Okay, let's just go with the direct input method for now. Now I want to introduce you to most basics and commonly used functions in Excel. Of course, the first one which I've introduced us to is the sum function, and then we could have sum itself have different forms, sum with condition like sum if or sum ifs. We can have minimum, maximum, average ifs. Okay, so we can have if function, which is logical functions. These are common functions that we use in simple calculations in Excel. So I have this range of data which will have apps, okay, and the revenue that is generated on each app at different time. So you can see Instagram, Google, YouTube, email, Gmail, Facebook, TikTok, and all of that. So if I apply the sum function, which I've done here, I simply say equals to, let me delete what is there already. I say equals to sum, okay, and press the tab key to select it, and then to go select the range, take your cursor up, click on it, then control shift down arrow to the point of the last data, and you can close. Okay, that gives you the sum function. I can change this and put equals to average for me to find average, for instance. Okay, press the tab key. I have average. Average of what do I want from this point? Control shift down. Okay, and then I close the parentheses. It gives me that average. Now you will notice that as I change the formula here, this is changing here. This is a formula text. We call this thing formula text. If you want to know what is happening in the formula, this is the formula I read, and this formula text will bring you what exactly is inside the formula. It will just give you an indication of what is it. So sometimes when you write a formula, somebody writes a formula, and you want to see the formula without clicking on it, when I click on the formula directly, you see I have the same thing. Just look up that formula and put formula text. So look at this now. If I say equals to formula text, you can see formula text, which is this. So what do I want formula text for? It's a reference. This is my reference, and I close this. Okay, so it will give me the breakdown of how that formula works. Okay, that's about that. Now I could change this to minimum. same data range. It's not, it didn't activate. Can you see? It didn't activate equals to minimum. You forgot to press the tab key for the opening parenthesis. You can see, and then you go there, and then you select. You can do the same thing for maximum. Because our time, I will not go to that. You can do the same thing for maximum and all of that. Functions can also be nested in between functions. For instance, I have all these apps here, but I want to know, some of them, they are all repeated, but I don't know the number of repetitions for each one. But I want a unique list of this list. If I come here, let me delete this so that you can see. I can come here or just anywhere for the sake of this class here. I say equals to unique. Unique is a function. This is unique. Press the tab key. Okay. Unique. What do I want unique of? I want this list. Okay, this list. I want now for me to be very careful so that I won't have error. I'll try to fix this range. Remember how do you fix a formula range? You use Fn F4, right? Fn F4 will bring the dollar sign. So I fix that range so that it will not move away from there. Are you with me? So you have unique. So that's your array. You want unique list. So I can close, forget about, you can see that by row, by column, exactly once or twice. If it repeats once or twice, those are options. I don't want to use them now. Say enter. It will give me a list. Can you see? It gives me a list immediately. And that list, Instagram, Google, okay, YouTube, Facebook. So these are the items that are there. Okay, this is what you call array formula. The list you are seeing here from Instagram to Google, you will see that there is this thin line, okay, border. All right. Now the formula is sitting in cell E8. There are nothing written in E9, E10, E11, E12, nothing there. You could see that in those places the formula grays out. Whereas here, where the formula is sitting, the formula comes out. This is what we call array formula. When formula or function can return more than one unique value, more than one value as its result. That's what we call dynamic array. So what I will now do is that this array, is unique, and I want you to be sorted in alphabetical order. So what I will do now, the result of this unique is this. That result will now be another input for a new function. So I'll come here now. I will introduce the sort function. Sort, can you see? I click my tab key. So the sort function, every function will have open parentheses and close parentheses. So the function is taking this unique list as its own input now, which is the array. Okay. Then I sort it. I say comma. So the array, this is the array. If you click on this, you see, it select the whole of that as the array. Can you see? So the next thing after that array is what? Comma. Okay, can you see? It now says sort index. What sort index does, I don't want to go to that. Just put one here, for instance. We have only one index. So just put here, meaning that you are sorting alphabetically. So, and then close the parentheses. You can see this red parenthesis is for the unique value. Okay, and then this sort has its open parenthesis and the closing parenthesis. Anytime you want to close a nested function and it's still giving you a colored closing parenthesis, it means that you have not closed all the parentheses until it gives you the last parenthesis to be black. then that is when you have finished coding the formula. So I press enter. Since it's giving me black at the last uh closing parenthesis, I press enter. You see that immediately it is sorted. Voila. See, Facebook, Gmail, Google, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So the beauty is that if I have a long list like that and I want to use it, but I don't want the formula to continue, what I will simply do is to now copy the whole of this. I copy it and I paste as value. Alt H V, you know how to paste as value. V is value, can you see? Okay, so I paste as value, and so here now I don't have it. Look at this. You can see here you have Facebook. Okay, it's written in cell F5, cell F7. Why? Sorry. Okay, F8. Can you see Facebook? F9. You can see things are already there. Unlike here, Gmail can nothing in there. It's the gray out formula that is there. But when you have copied it into our value only, you see the values are now represented individually in each cells. I hope you are getting that. Okay, so that's how to nest formula in Excel. Now let's look at count and countif. If you come here and we change this minimum to count. Count. Okay, which is this, give you this intelligence. We call this intelligence. So this drop down is called intelligence. When you press the tab to select it, because it's the first there. So select, I don't know what. Okay, I have it already. So I press enter. See, it's counting the number of items in the range. So if I go and select this, so let's say I'm selecting this. So you see, count. Can you see the same thing in the status bar? Count 21, which is what is here. So now let's look at count if. So now you have the whole of this table. You have apps, which are Facebook, Gmail, Google, Instagram, TikTok, and all of that. So if you want to count the number of Facebook, number of Gmail and Google and all of that we have there, we will need to use the count if, because there's always a condition. In the first case here, it just counts. You could not distinguish each of these app from one another. So if you want to distinguish by the condition, you need to use count if for counting and sum if for adding. So let's go to count if before we go to sum if. So if you take this, you'll see what this is doing. Okay, I'll explain what this is doing. So equals to count. If you want to get if, you press the arrow key down and then you press the tab key. Can you see? Count if. You see, the first thing is criteria. Criteria range. The first thing is criteria range. So criteria range will be in which data or in which range are you going to find what you want to count. You want to count Instagram, Google, to YouTube, Facebook. So we are going to get it in this range so that this thing will not move. This range will not move. That's why I'm going to fix it with fixed reference, okay, which you already know, F4 or FN F4. So I say criteria range. What I want to call criteria range. Now, criteria is what you want to use as the basis of your counting. So in the criteria range, okay, which you have selected, that is one or two of the criteria, so all the criteria will be fine. So you now put the criteria here, for instance, this is Facebook. So if I want Facebook, now in this case, I could do this. So that is criteria 1. If I have more criteria 2, criteria range 2, if maybe I have another range, I want it to pull it and give it its own criteria, it will do that. But let's leave it for now. And I close the bracket. See, it's counting how many Facebook do we have here. If you go count this manually, you see 1, 2, 3. Can you see that? Okay. Now, remember that this F8, if I copy down, fine. Okay. Let's delete it so that you can see what I did. So this is the formula I built. So F8, if I copy down, it will come to F9, F10, F11, F12, F13. Okay. And we have YouTube, to YouTube, Facebook. So we are going to get it in this range so that this thing will not move. This range will not move. That's why I'm going to fix it with fixed reference, okay, which you already know, F4 or FN F4. So I say criteria range. What I want to call criteria range. Now, criteria is what you want to use as the basis of your counting. So in the criteria range, okay, which you have selected, that is one or two of the criteria, so all the criteria will be fine. So you now put the criteria here, for instance, this is Facebook. So if I want Facebook, now in this case, I could do this. So that is criteria 1. If I have more criteria 2, criteria range 2, if maybe I have another range, I want it to pull it and give it its own criteria, it will do that. But let's leave it for now. And I close the bracket. See, it's counting how many Facebook do we have here. If you go count this manually, you see 1, 2, 3. Can you see that? Okay. Now, remember that this F8, if I copy down, fine. Okay. Let's delete it so that you can see what I did. So this is the formula I built. So F8, if I copy down, it will come to F9, F. Now let's look at count and COUNTIF. So I put count here now. This, I count this range and it tells me the number of items there. That's for count. I'm using this formula text to tell you the formula that is we are operating in this. Okay, so count if I say this is sum, of course this will change to sum. Okay, so now let's look at COUNTIF. So I want to count number of Google that we have here, number of Gmail we have, number of Facebook, and so on and so forth. The problem, supposing this data is not as simple as this, maybe I have more than 1,000 items. That these items, these 4, 5, 6 items. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. So supposing we are them repeating themselves for so many times, and we have a long list. If I want to start to count manually, how many times the Google repeat itself, it will take time and it will be prone to error. But we can simply use COUNTIF to do that. So all we do is say equals to count, arrow down, COUNTIF, And then, so what do we want to count? Where do we want to count? You say here, count range. The range where we want to count. Okay. So which is this range? Now I'm going to fix it so that it doesn't go beyond that range. I hope you know how to do that. F4 or FN F4. So I fix that range. So what is the criteria that I want to use to count it? The criteria range is this range that I've selected. And the criteria are the items, each of the items I want to count. So for instance, I want to count Facebook. So, comma, criteria, Facebook. I click on Facebook, which is on F8, and I close the bracket, and I say enter. So it's telling me that we have 3 Facebook. Yeah. Let's delete this so you can see. Okay, it's telling me we have 3 Facebook here. Let me fix, for me to copy down, if I copy down or to fill, you see, Google 5, Instagram 4, Instagram 5, TikTok 3, YouTube 3. Okay, now for purpose of avoiding error, I could fix this F8 so that the column is fixed and it moves down the row, which is 8. So toggle the F4 key until you have fixed the column, which is F, and leave the row alone. Okay, enter. And if you copy down, okay, and double clicking that, we have the result. So that is count function, counting function. Let's now look at sum and sum if. Of course, we already know sum. If you want to sum this range of data, simply you say equals to, or you can press alt equals to, okay, and then it will try to activate the sum function. Can you see that? So I press enter and I have the sum, right? And if you come here, you will see the same 18,807.45. Now, let's look at sum. Now, in this case, you see, as we did COUNTIF, you see that there are different Google, Facebook, Instagram. So all revenues from each of the Google will be counted, will be summed together. All revenue coming from Facebook will be summed together. All revenue coming from Instagram will be summed together. So how do you do that? You, instead of paying sum, you say sum if. Sum if the range you are seeing here is Facebook. Sum if the range you are seeing here is Instagram. Sum if you see anything here that is Google. Get it now? So how do we build this? This formula will look complex to you, but don't worry, I'll make it simple. I'll explain to you. So here is even using sum ifs. But before I use sum ifs, I'll rather use sum if. Sum ifs is when you need more conditions, and it's easier to use than sum if. But for the purpose of this class, I'll simplify it to just sum if. So let's delete this. Let's say we want this. So I want Facebook. I want to sum the number of Facebook. I say equals to sum. You can see sum if. I press my tab. Sum if. So what's the first thing is asking for? The range. I put it here so that we can see. Okay, can you see? range, the criteria, and the sum range. So what is going to be the range? The range is where the criteria are. This again. So where the criteria are, that will be the range. Sorry. System. Okay. So it's a range. For me to select, I select this range, right? So this is the range. I fix it. Okay. Criteria, just like we are doing COUNTIF. Criteria, what is the criteria? I want to sum Facebook. Okay. Now, we want to copy the formula down. So we'll fix I and allow it to move down. Okay. So what is the range that we want to sum? Sum range. This is the range we want to sum, right? And I fix that as well. So I close my bracket and press enter. My system is slow and hanging. So sorry for that. You can see now. So the formula may look complex, but when you actually know how to build functions, reference, it will be very simple for you to analyze. So if I copy this down, you will see now it will have sum each of these items. So every TikTok is total of this, Instagram total of this, Google total of this. So to check, if I add all of this together, it gives me what? Okay, I've not gotten to YouTube, so let me finish it off. Okay, you can see if I now sum all this together, for you to know that it is correct, it gives you the same total sum that I have here, right? You only need that it has distinguished each of these app into what the total of Facebook we have, Gmail we have, Google we have, and all of that. Can you see now? Good. So we have done it with count and COUNTIF, sum and SUMIF. So before we close this class, I want to so like I said, we are dealt with sum and SUMIF. We are also dealt with count and COUNTIF. So I want to give you, using nested functions, I want to give you a case whereby we give conditions that, okay, if we revenue a certain amount of revenue is this, okay, give us this ranking or comment. So let's look at it. So I copy, what I did now is, this is formula. I just copy this. And pasted everything here at HVV. So I don't know, the system is hanging, but what I've done is just to copy this and paste it here without the formula, removing the formula. All right. Now, let's not worry ourselves. So I want to say my system is hanging. I don't know why, not responding. This actually not good enough. You can see. Don't have any other thing. I saw that. Okay, let's go. So what I've simply done is to link this result here. What I've done is to link it so that if, okay, so this is my revenue, so that if anything change here, it will change here. But I want to use this for the analysis. So let's come here. So I set up this. I introduce the if function to you. What am I having here? You say that if K8 is lesser than L5, where is K8? K8 is this amount 2,230.6. If it is lesser than 1,500, return low. That is L6. Otherwise, return nothing. That's what is there. Well, let me delete it and write it so that you can see. Okay, equals to the conditional function if function. If we have ifs. Ifs can deal with more conditions. If we deal with one logic condition, but ifs can deal with several logical conditions. That will be for intermediate and advanced class. But for the introduction, let's just stick to if. So if, so it's a logic text. So you now write your logic text. You click on this, or you can come here and click on it so that you can click here. Okay, logic text. What's your logic text? You say if this money, okay, and you know I want to copy down, so I'll fix K. Okay, is lesser than, I could have written is lesser than, is lesser than 1,500, but it's not advisable to add code figures in Excel. It's better you put it in a reference cell so that if that changes, and then it will change automatically, as well as if that changes, it will change automatically, as well as without anybody clicking on the formula, we'll be able to know what the inputs, the variable inputs are. So if this revenue for Facebook is less than this 1,500, see, I've referenced 1,500 that I've written there now. You can see this thing is telling me the value in L5. So I want it L5 to be fixed because I'm not copying it down. So that's F4. So if this value is lesser than, that's the logic test now, is lesser than 0, what do? Return value if true. I don't like what this is. Value if true. This is value if true. I don't like one. Sorry. Okay. So if, sorry, my logical test, comma, value, so it moves on to value if true. So if this is lesser than 500, what do? Tell me that this income is low. I'll fix that as well. Okay. And if value is false, so comma, if value is false, don't do anything. Just a space, I put space there. And how do you put, I put nothing there. That's double quotes, space, double quotes. Okay, so put nothing there. Or if you want to put anything there, you can put nil, not available, whatever. But for now, just put nothing there. So that's the value if true. That's how logical value if is executed, and press enter. So here, because there's nothing, okay, because there's nothing there, it says you didn't see anything. Okay, let me shock you. If I come here and put L, for instance, okay, or nil, for instance. No, okay, let's say no, for instance. Okay, I think that is better. Let me reduce the space. Okay, if I put no, okay, so if I put no and close the bracket and press enter, you can see automatically it says what? No, because now if I copy this down anywhere the amount is less than 1,500, you will see it will say low. Can you see? Low. This is 1,495. Every other way is less than, is more than 1,500. So this is where you can use if as a condition, okay, to state or analyze things in Excel, right? So let's go. Now we have treated if it's less than 500. Okay, if it's more than 500, but it's less than 2,000, what happened? Then we use the if function and the and function because two criteria has to be fulfilled. It has to be greater than 500 and it has to be less than 200. So don't be afraid of this. So I'll be quick. Let's review this together. So the first thing you do in this case is activate the AND function first. And here is a function, though. It's not the AND. So it said logic. What's the logic of AND? The AND that we want to do here is that we want this to be greater, to be lesser than 200. That is what? M, okay, M5, right? To be what? Lesser than 200. Lesser than, sorry, M5 is supposed to be, not M5. That is, we are still considering the K5 rather. K8, K8, K8. So let's redo it. I want K8. This is K8, right? To be lesser than what? 2,000. I fixed that. So you close the parentheses for and. So that's the second condition. So you now build the first condition. This is the second condition and it's less than 200. The first condition is greater than 500. So, two brackets, one will open a function and another will close it. So if I want to nest the if function to it now, I'll come here and type if. Okay, so okay, and select if. So if logic text again, so what is our logic text? If this value, okay, we are going to make it run down. Okay, if this value is less than, so you can see it's telling you what that value is. Let's say if this value is less than what? Less than 1,500, which I'm going to fix. Okay, what do you do? Value if true. Now, this value is less than 1,500, comma, value if true, you return low, right? Which I also fixed. Otherwise, value is false. So value if false, well, with a comma, you now return this, okay? And they close this bracket. This is giving us red because we have not closed the second bracket. We close this bracket, we press enter. You say false. What's going on? Something is wrong. if, okay, what happened here is that we needed to K8 here, you don't fix this. This is to be non-logic test, okay? This to be is the K that will fix again, not okay. And press enter. It's not correct. What happened? What's the difference between this and this? If so, okay, let's look at this. It said if first logic test, if that's the first logic test, can you see? If this value if true is this, return logic text this. That logic text require two things. If K9 is lesser than 1,500, and then value if true, return if K9 is greater than K9 is greater than L5, 1,500. Okay, that's our first condition. Greater than, not less than. Okay, it has to be greater than, but 2,000 and less than 2,000. Okay, so it has to be greater than here. So, sorry. So, if it's greater than 2,000, if less, is greater than 1,005, and it's lesser than, is greater than 1,500, logic test, value if true, you don't have value if true yet. It's two conditions you have to combine first. So if it's greater than 1,500 and is less than this, return this first. Sorry. Let me use this. Let me use this. Sorry for that. It's like I'm not getting it too right. Let me use this. Let's just use this that we have built and analyze it. Okay. What is this saying? Let's read this formula. It said logic test. What is the first logic test? You can see the first logic test puts the AND function. The AND function will take two conditions. The first condition, the second condition. So logic test, and that's the logic test. Value if true is to say fear. Okay. So the logic test is this, which are two conditions. If K8 is greater than 1,500 and K8 is lesser than this, and then return this. Okay, I got it now. So let's say equals to AND. So AND is a compound function. So it will take two or more logical tests. So logical test. So first logical test, let's come here. It's almost like it's always better here than elsewhere. So let's come here. The system is still hanging. I apologize for this overhanging all the time. I really apologize. I need to finish this as soon as possible. Still not responding. Please bear with me. I hope you're still there. Let's hope it will come up. I don't want to use that. I deleted this in here. I want to write it my own way. I said equals to if. Okay, I want to introduce the AND function first. I said AND. Okay, so two or more logical tests. So I said logic one is what? Logic one is that if this revenue, right? Remember you fix K, okay, is greater than this 1,500. I'm going to fix. Then that's logic test one. Then the test two is that this same K8, okay, is less than 2,000. Can you see now? Which I'm going to fix. Okay. So we have completed the two logic tests. I close that bracket. That's for the function, the AND function. Then we now introduce here the if function. So if these two conditions have been met, that's what we are saying. The AND function introduced two conditions, two or more logical conditions. So 1,000 is less than 1,500 is greater than 2,000 naira. If this condition has been met, then bring if function and let it do what? If this logical test has been met, what will be the value if true? Return what? Fair. Can you see that? I fixed that too. Otherwise, return no. Let's use the no again. I'll see this double quotation. I could change that later. You said double quotation. I say no. Okay. And then we'll close the bracket and press enter. You see that it will work now. Again, the system is hanging, but I know the formula is correct. This logic there, oh, that's a, instead of this is comma, instead of comma, if this is greater than this, okay, comma, that was an error, okay, enter. See, it returns what? No. Now, if I go down and I copy down, what do I have? No. But here, when this value, 1,200 is more than 1,500 is less than 2,000. When you see here, this one, everything is hanging. This is really terrible. So here, it's saying no because 1,495 is less than 1,500 and it's also lesser than 2,000. So here is greater than 1,500. Can you see now? So let's go here and finish the job. The same thing you have here. What you are saying here is that if this K40, K8 is greater than 2,000 now, but it's less than 4,000, okay, return good. Otherwise, return nothing. So in this nothing clear, I say no again. I put no there just to populate that place. Let's put no there. Okay, you will see that place will change to no now. Can you see? Good, because you've met that condition. This is 2,235. We say this condition, if this amount is greater than 2,000 but less than 4,000. You can see 2,000 is greater than 2,000 but less than 4,000. Say it is good. So in the case where that condition is not met, you return no. In the place where the condition is met, 3,000. You see 4,000 is more than 4,000. So it's still saying no. Now, you now write the last condition. If, now look at this case, we are now writing next step, a and, because we only need one logical function. If we have this K8 is greater than or equals to, remember here, it's lesser than 4,000, greater than 2,000, lesser than 4,000. So 4,000 is not included. That's why when you come here, you say it's greater than or equals to 4,000. Can you see? K8 is greater than or equal to, this is greater than, and we put equal to, greater than or equals to what? 400. This is 400. Okay, you see 400. That is S5. Okay, so return what? Value if true. Return top. That means the function is performing at top level. Otherwise, return nothing. This nothing again, let me put no there so that all those places will not be empty. That's why you see it's saying no because this value is less than 4,000 naira. But when you come down here, it say top. It say top. These are where the value is more than 4,000 naira. So this is what you have introducing you to basic and intermediate Excel functions, how to write functions and use functions to do calculation. Now, one two thing I also told you is that, you know, these things that I've written here, they are dynamic. If I decide to change these ratings, for instance, if I decide to change it to let's say red, you see everything will auto-populate because I have put it as reference. I didn't put it directly in the formula. If I say this is yellow, okay, it will change. If I say this is, let's say this is green, so somebody is performing to expectation is green, and if somebody who is performing above 4,000, let's say is blue or good, okay, or let's say even is good, see, everything automatically changes. Remember this sum function. So if I change, if you just arbitrarily, maybe next month, this is a particular month, next month, this value changes. Let me just type something here for convenience sake. Okay, I'll come here and change something for convenience sake. Okay, you can see everything is auto-populating. Okay, if I come here and change everything, sorry. Okay, let's come here and change this. And then I have that. You see, as it change, everything is changing because the formulas have been written in a dynamic way. So as I get this sum changes, the sum if will change, which I also link here, and all these parameters will change. Can you see this person enter red? It's even also possible for me to put conditional formatting here so that this red will actually show red color and all of that. So, but that is for another class. So I hope you get value for this. Next session, we are going to be looking at Excel range, table, filtering, and sorting. So subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button, share, like, and comment. See you next time.